Welcome to Breakthrough Success. I'm your host, Marc, Guberti, CEO and founder of the Content Marketing Plaza, bringing you 3 new episodes each week where I and top-level guests teach you how to take your business to the next level and achieve your breakthrough. Now, if your breakthrough is growing a business, reaching out to more customers, I can help you with that. One of the things I do offer is a free strategy called markguberti.com/strategy, which will be in the show notes for anyone who is interested. But another big thing you have to really hit any of the breakthroughs that you're after is the ability to persevere through all the challenges that may come your way. And we have a really awesome guest who she has come through a lot of challenges, a lot of circumstances to get to where she is now. She is an author who believes that it is never too late to realize your ambitions, and she holds a bunch of motivational workshops and seminars to help students consider returning to academia. And she currently works as a staff assistant with the federal government. She has a really, really awesome story of circumstances and overcoming all of that. So today's guest for episode 357 of Breakthrough Success is none other than Fiona Harewood. Fiona, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marc. Thank you for having me.
Fiona, I'm so happy to have you on the show and just talk about how we can get better at dealing with circumstances and allowing them to sharpen us and become better through all that challenge. So I'm wondering if we could start right away with your story and just some of the circumstances you had to face in order to get to where you are now.
Well, to say the truth, Marc, I came to this country in 2001. Prior to that, I'm Guyanese, I lived in Guyana, but then in Barbados. But I was never doing well in school. I had a good job in the Caribbean, but when I came here, I realized that my education was not good enough. I did not really consider going back to school because I looked at my age and I said, well, I'm too old. And then I also looked at the fact that I had a full-time job and I couldn't quit my job to go to school. So I kind of lingered and procrastinated. But in the meantime, I was involved in cleaning homes in order to make money reach. And it was a good job because it was an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. But then I did not want to keep cleaning homes all the time. So I had a friend in the background who kept telling me she had just finished 1 degree and then she was about to start another one. And she said, Fiona, you need to go back to school. And of course, I gave her all those excuses, but she never let up on me. She always insisted, you need to go back to school. So eventually, at age 44, I packed my bags and I went back to school. And that's where it all started.
Wow, and that's really interesting from the back to school dynamic, but also a dream dynamic, because there are a lot of people who they have a full-time job. They think that they just keep doing this every single day, this grind, and they can't really do things like go back to college if that's your big dream. Like for Fiona, it was really helpful for her, or for someone who isn't sure if they could really continue with this business because they have a full-time job. So I feel like your story is very relatable, especially in that sense. I'm wondering how you're able to balance it all, because it's not like you can like go to college the way you did, but like stop making money. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit on how that worked.
Well, it was not easy to balance. You have to know what you want, and you have to persevere, because the thing about it, you have to be at work in order to make money, but you also have to study in order to be successful in your studies, because you have to pay money for that too, and you don't want to pay money and fail. So I had to utilize my time wisely. I would be at work during the day. Right after work, I would go straight to school, because for the most part, I was enrolled in almost full-time classes.
Wow.
So I was on campus almost every day. I think a couple of times I didn't do Fridays, but for the most part, I was on campus. The thing is that helped me to get through is that when I got home, I would sometimes quickly take a nap if there was time for that. But sometimes I found myself studying until the wee hours of the morning.
Wow.
I had to do assignments, and those assignments, you would know, Mark, it's not easy and it's a ton. But I persevered. I knew what I wanted. And the thing about it, once I started realizing I was not 18 anymore, I was 44. So I didn't have all the time in the world. So I went to school nonstop. I would not take break during the summer, no semester, no end of semester breaks. I just continued school. And that is one of the things that caused me to get through with my bachelor's 6 months ahead of schedule. And that was a great accomplishment for me, but I just kept going when I realized what I wanted. And once I started, there was no procrastination anymore. So my encouragement is for to those who want to do this or who has to do this. Once you start, know what you're aiming towards and just keep going.
Yeah, that's a really great insight. Having an idea of what you're aiming towards. I mean, Fiona was able to finish early because she was very clear on what she wanted and she was willing to put in that time. And I know we've talked about persevering a lot, and it's a very important quality to have that ability to persevere. But it's one thing to say you have to persevere. It's something you have to do and actually doing it. So, I mean, I'm just trying to think about your schedule. I mean, it's really incredible. You had the full-time job. Like for me, it's different. Like people say look, like you're doing like stuff with the schedule. But I mean, like a full-time job and like having like overhead, that's different. So I'm wondering if you could share like how you were able to develop that perseverance, because right now it's obvious you persevered, but I mean, like during that long day when you've got finals coming up and you've got to go to your job, like how did you persevere through all of that?
Yes, that is a very good question, Mark, because there were times when I really felt I couldn't do it. There were times I can tell you it was not easy. I sat at my computer many nights and cried because it was hard. But then sometimes you have to shed that tear. And then when you're done, you feel better and you get like an extra strength to keep going on. I'm a woman of faith too. So I prayed a lot. And prayer got me through this a whole lot, more than I can ever say. Prayer got me through it. But I couldn't just pray. I had to get up and do what I needed to do. But as I said, once you're determined, once you know what you want, you have to just keep going, keep going. And you know, it helps to look at the journey like one day at a time. Don't bother to worry about all that is ahead of you. Because if you try to say, well, okay, by the end of this semester, I have to do this and I have to do that, it would not work and it sometimes become overwhelming. You have to look at this journey one day at a time, sometimes one step at a time too.
Yeah, and that's a really great insight, because some people, it is great to think long term, like set those goals, know what you're aiming for, stuff that we've covered a little bit. But while it's great to have that long term view, it is also great to focus one day at a time and not get too stressed out, because if you're like where you are now and you set these really big goals and you're stressed about like, how am I going to get there and how am I going to get there in a certain time frame, like that stress can really build up. So how are you able to, I mean, it sounds like you had this really great mix of knowing short term, I got to do what I got to do today, but not cracking in the short term, because in the long term, you know, I'm graduating, more opportunities, stuff like that. So how are you able to balance the short term focus of like one day at a time for the journey while still having the long term aim and the vision?
Well, the short term, as it is termed, it took me one day at a time. I would just focus on what I need to do then. There were times when we had to look forward because, like, take for instance, when you have a closing assignment that is coming up, and sometimes those closing assignments are really long and you have to do a lot of research. You cannot wait until the end to do it. So the easiest thing was to look at your overall schedule, like at the beginning of the semester, see what is required. And after that, then you plan accordingly, because you would know, well, okay, I have a long paper coming up due in 4 to 6 weeks. And then, or you would know, well, okay, I have coursework that would be due every week, because it's like one class per week, right? And you work accordingly, work along that line, take care of the ones that are immediately due, while you piece by piece work on that one that is due in the like further away, because you cannot just leave it out. The one time I realized I did that, only to find that when it was time to submit that assignment, the long one, then I realized the time I had planned for it, it was not enough. So after that, I learned early in the game, I need to scan my entire syllabus, see what is required, what would be required, and then at the back of your mind, you have it there. Okay, within so time, I need to start doing so, and you go one step at a time still.
Yeah, and that's a really great approach. I mean, with college, like I'll also look at the syllabus and see what's due and stuff, but it's really great that you actually map all of that out on your calendar. And that's just one of the things where, like, with college, people have different thoughts on it, but if you view it from a work ethic perspective and you have the right work ethic, you could carry that over. I mean, like for content creators, it's scheduling your content in advance, knowing what needs to come out when. Like, for instance, if I do a webinar, I know what content has to go before that, and I schedule that accordingly. Just as Fiona is sharing with us, she looks at all these syllabi, see what's required, and then she plans accordingly. So that's a really great tip for anyone, regardless of what their dream is, regardless of what they're doing, scheduling all these different things and knowing what you have to do when. So that's a great habit to develop. I'm wondering, Fiona, if you could share with us some of the other habits you've been able to develop on your journey, because, I mean, just thinking about your whole story, I'm sure you had to develop a lot of habits to get to where you are today, a lot of good ones.
Right. One of the things I had to do was to find a mentor. And I would not say I literally found one person, but I had to surround myself with people I know that would have positive influence on me, people who would hold me accountable. Like, take for instance, even if it was my professor or my supervisor, people who wanted to see me succeed. So it was good having those people in my life.
That's a really great approach. Like, one of the things Jim Rohn says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So, I mean, if you are around those kinds of people, that's going to encourage you. It's going to help you grow into the kind of person who's capable of taking on all this extra workload and being able to persevere through all that. So definitely a really great habit and great way to live for anyone, regardless of what their profession is. And one of the things, do you have anything to add? Or?
Another thing I found that took me far and helped me out was that whatever I do, I try to do it to the best of my ability. So, like returning to school, I was 44, but I did not go and say, well, okay, I'm just going to get through this and that's it. No, with every class, I aimed for an 8. Every class. My goal was to graduate summa cum laude, but I eventually dropped a little. I graduated magna cum laude, but that's because everything I went to do, I ensured that I did it to my best. That's my aim, even on my job. When I go to work, I try my best to do my best in everything. When I used to clean for people, I did it the best way I could. And that made people believed in me. They trusted me. They relied on me. And they gave me, they were able to refer me. So to do things, not to just to be mediocre about it. Do it to the best of your ability. I found that helped me a whole lot.
Yeah, that's definitely a really great habit to have. I mean, there's a saying, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And if you try your best at different things, you're going to see a lot better results in the key areas that you're going after. So I really like that insight as well. We should always put our best foot forward. And also how it's interesting how Fiona wanted to go for Summa, but she ended up getting Magna. And I think one of the big lessons there is this classic quote. You might have heard it, but like if you aim for the moon, even if you miss, you still land on one of the stars. I see your smile, Fiona, so I'm sure you might have heard that one before. But I mean, it's true. I mean, if you set really big goals, even if you miss them, you end up a lot better than if you just set a really small goal and hit that. So, Fiona, really awesome stuff throughout our time together. For people who want to learn more about Fiona, I know she has her book out. I Did It, You Can Too. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about that book with us and just some of the other places we could find you as well.
Okay, so my book, I Did It, You Can Too, it's available at Barnes and Noble and on Amazon. And it's a good thing when I learned that this summer it's now on the reading list in the Philadelphia School District. Awesome. This summer for the students to read. And not only that, but the Riverside Correctional Facility, it will be in the book clubs pretty soon, and I will be sharing with the women in that facility also. So I Did It, You Can Too is doing great things.
Wow.
You can also find me on www.fionaharewood.com. I'm on Twitter at FH and on Facebook. www.facebook.com/Fiona Harewood.
Fiona, thank you for sharing with us all those places where we can find you. Congrats, by the way, on your book success, because, I mean, getting in the school district, especially for you, because, I mean, that's the kind of group you're trying to help. So kudos to you for getting in there. And just thank you so much for taking the time to be on Breakthrough Success with us today.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me. Thank you.